Hey, hello everyone. Welcome to DebConf 25 in Brest, Brittany, France, Earth, Milky Way, something. Welcome to Samuel, who is a current maintainer in Debian for too many years to count, and who wrote a small script, wcurl, and is going to talk to us about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for coming to my talk. Last year, I presented a lightning talk about wcurl in DebConf 2024. This year, I would like to tell about what happened in this year and since wcurl's creation, because wcurl is now 1 year old, 1 year and a week, maybe 2 weeks old. That's the logo of the project. My name is Samuel Henrique. I am Brazilian, but I live in Ireland. I have been a Debian developer since 2018. I contribute on my own free time, so I don't get paid to contribute to Debian. I also a member of the security tools packaging team, and outside of the team, I maintain curl. It's one of the packages I maintain outside of the team. I maintain it together with Sergio, DJ, and Charles. I do mentorship work for Debian as well. This year, I'm a Google Summer of Code mentor. For my job, I am a senior systems development engineer for Amazon Linux in the security team. These slides are available in my website, samueloph.dev/slides. I had the idea for wcurl on my way to Curl Up, which was the Curl Developers Conference that happens every year. I was, at that moment in time, I was thinking a lot about developer productivity, especially in the terminal, and being one of the curl maintainers on Debian, I could use that opportunity to discuss idea with the curl developers. And eventually I had to download something during the trip, and I realized I didn't remember the curl parameters to just download a file. And I felt a bit ashamed, but then I also thought, I have been maintaining curl for years in Debian. I have some experience in Linux in the terminal, and I still need to resort to wget only because I don't remember the parameters. Maybe we could ship up a small script in the curl package on Debian, which lets you just download a file. This script would wrap it up the curl invocation with all of the parameters you need to just download a file. I discussed this with the curl developers during the conference. At that time, I was calling it curl D, which stands for curl download. And the feedback I got was that it was worth a try. So they were aware of Debian having done similar things in the past. I believe it was Postgres package, where Debian might ship some extra utils scripts that make it easier for users to use. We don't just ship the raw package. So it was worth a try. It was a smaller blast radius. It would get into Debian unstable anyway. If things go really wrong, we can just drop it. Then I discussed this with the Brazilian community because we have weekly meetings, and the other curl maintainers are also Brazilian, so all of us were there. One of the feedbacks I've got was that curl D sounds like a demon, so it's not a great name. And then Charlie suggested wcurl instead, which doesn't really stand for anything, but it's a wget alternative. It's a wrapper on top of curl. It's very easy to remember. So wcurl it is then. I wrote the initial version in Bash. I sent it for review to the other curl maintainers, and then Sergio offered to rewrite the Bash specific parts in POSIX compliant shell script. And the thing I really love about Sergio is that you can't tell him about a problem because he's gonna fix that and 2 more. So he did that, and he also added a bunch of other nice features. So the first release of wcurl happened in July 2024, and me and Sergio are co-creators. It went to Debian unstable, so if you had curl, you had wcurl installed with it. The public reception was good. I was quite confident about the problem. The curl survey, there's a curl survey every year, and every year there's people asking for something like this. There's a lot of people that resort to wget only because they don't remember the curl parameters. wget is fine. I like wget. They have really nice features. What I don't like is the fact that I have to use this tool only because I don't remember the parameters of this other tool. So the reception was better than I expected, but the negative reception was quite interesting as well. And I've got a lot of, I appreciate it because I've got a few insights from reading it. And there are different levels of negative reception. So you get people who would say, you can just do this instead, and they will write some alias or maybe a curl RC file, and they will always propose something that doesn't fully work, which is very interesting. So for example, none of the alternatives I saw dealt with URLs that contains a white space character. Curl does not handle those. You need to percent encode them, and there's no curl option that does that. Most of them didn't have retries or automatic decision of the output file name as well. But look, at the end of the day, if this works for them, it's fine. This is good, right? wcurl is just there. You can use it if you want. The footprint is so small. We have 334 lines of shell script code. So it doesn't really hurt anybody that's in there. There's a man page if you want, but all you need is wcurl, list of URLs you want to download. It will do them in parallel. Then you had more principled negative comments, which will claim that this goes against the Unix values, which I don't really agree with it, but I think it's interesting to think about it, right? But I'm not aware of a Unix value that says a single parameter to have a single command to have 1,000,000 parameters to do everything, because that's what was going to happen with curl. It already has a bunch of parameters. Curl by default today outputs things to the stdout. If you were to change that, you are going to break a lot of people. So you can't really change it. You would have to add an extra parameter. Downloading a file is something so simple and so common that you want one command that you invoke to do that without having to pass any parameters. And then you have people who are really, really against it. And at that point, it just becomes funny. So it's also valuable, I guess. We had really important contributions that came from outside of our Debian curl maintainers circle. And straight from the beginning, I wanted to list a few of them here. We've got from TSSVA from Hacker News. They've mentioned that our usage of get-opt did not support non-GNU Linux systems, so BSD and macOS, which it's expected because me and Sergio don't run these systems. We quickly addressed that. Henrique 5991 also suggested that we defaulted to HTTPS when there's no protocol defining the URL. We did it. Gnomon sent a pull request asking us to disable the globbing parser of curl in URLs. That is something that might catch people off guard, so we did it. Ryan Carsten Schmidt spent months discussing how we handle output file names with us. And so they're responsible for how wcurl has a default file name today, which is index.html, and also the fact that we percent decode the output file name. So you don't get, it's not garbage, but it's more human readable, the output file name that you get because of this. Daniel Stenberg provided a logo for the project. He is the main curl developer, curl creator. And we have Mythic Spirit, who uses Arch, by the way, who suggested that we should support, for the lowercase o and uppercase o parameters, that we should support the argument to be passed without a white space, which was just a mistake on our side, and we fixed that. And by the way, both lowercase and uppercase o, they do the same thing. It's just if you want to explicitly set an output file name. And the reason we support both of them is because wget has one way and curl has the other way. We do both. This way, you don't have to think about it. You just use it, and it's going to work. The biggest convenience factor of wcurl is the fact that it comes installed with curl. You don't need to think whether or not it's installed there. If you have curl, you have wcurl. This is the case for a lot of distributions right now. I listed the main ones. So in Debian 13 and Debian 12 backports, it is there since June 2024, since its creation. Ubuntu 24.10 has it because they pulled it from Debian. Amazon Linux 2 and Amazon Linux 2023 has it since April. I was the one that pushed that change as part of my work. And then a lot of other projects has it now since May because they got it from curl upstream. And that is Alpine Linux, Arch Linux, Fedora 43, and onwards, of course. Gentoo Homebrew for macOS users, MSys2 for Windows users, it's even there. Slackware, FreeBSD. These distributions, they used to have wcurl much earlier, but as a different package. Previously, you had to install wcurl explicitly, but now all of these have wcurl as part of curl. We still have some distributions that ship wcurl separately, so OpenSUSE and NixOS. I want to open a feature request to them to request them to ship together with curl, and we'll see how that goes. If you're a user of them, feel free to request it as well. Of course, check if there's already a request pending and then maybe comment on that. Because they are nowadays taking extra steps to split it, and it makes sense because in the past it used to be like that, but now the curl upstream has it, and that's happening since May, since curl 8.14, you get it all together. So if you pull the curl source code, you compile, build it, install it yourself, you get wcurl as well. Looking back on this last year, wcurl is very, very simple. It does feel a bit weird to have like a whole presentation about it because at the end of the day, it's a 324 lines shell script, including comments, by the way. So it's even less than that. But the point is that it just gets the job done. So it's nice in that way. The support that we received from the curl developers was essential for wcurl. At the moment I published the announcement, Daniel Stenberg would publish as well, letting people know that it's out there, even before wcurl was part of the curl organization. And so that got a lot of eyes on it. Eventually, Daniel proposed that wcurl will be adopted into curl, so then it stops being a Debian specific thing, and then most recently wcurl became bundled into curl itself, which makes it very easy for distributors to get it. It's something that just happened in the right place, in the right time. If I hadn't gone to curl up, maybe this would not have happened. It is the right time because this is an old problem. There was never a perfect solution for it. This was discussed years ago by the curl developers, in between themselves. None of the alternatives were really agreed upon. Maybe you just needed some time. So after years, you can look back at the discussions and say, maybe we should give it a go this time, you know. Me and the other contributors spent hours discussing the smallest details of wcurl. We jumped into calls over weekends and we spent 3 hours each call, maybe two or three calls of 3 hours each, discussing how we should name parameters, how we should set up the code, even though it's so simple, right? And that was in between 3 and 4 people, but it really paid off in the end, because now when we need to change something, it's clear that that was the right choice for that problem, and I don't need to get concerned about any of those decisions. And the contributions, as you've seen, the contributions from the external community were key here. Also, Sergio DJ, the co-creator, is here as well. Can you raise your hand, Sergio, please? Yeah, so there it is. So the next steps now for wcurl is basically advertising it. There was a curl survey this year, and a lot of people were still not aware of its existence. And people who replied to the curl survey are experienced curl users generally. So I ordered something around 2,000 stickers of wcurl, and I carry them with me everywhere. You probably saw it in the stickers table here. And a fun fact, there are more curl stickers, wcurl stickers out there than wcurl lines of code, because it's 324 lines of code. The current version we are shipping has pretty much zero maintenance cost. There is a pull request open right now for some typos. that will trigger a new release, and then we don't have any expectation of further releases. There were talks about having a compiled version of wcurl. We don't have any concrete plans. If it happened, it would allow us to have fancier features, because then we can use libcurl and we can have things like recursive downloads and other stuff. And then we can also discuss about whether or not we mimic wget parameters, but there's not a concrete plan. It becomes more portable in a way, but also less portable, because now you need to compile it. And nowadays, if you don't have wcurl in your machine, it's very easy to pull the script down. It's 324 lines of code. If it happens, it's very likely to coexist with the script wcurl, because the script wcurl is not changing anyway. What does it really mean to deprecate it? So it might have a different name, but there are no concrete plans. That's all I wanted to say. We might have 3 minutes for questions. Thank you very much.